بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam, rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Assalamu alaikum, brother Atiba.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
So tonight we're going to continue our series. We've been talking about, black boys, raising black boys here in America. And tonight we have a program. Title of our program is Fighting for Black Boys. And we want to hear from brother Atiba Jones and the Save Institute, a much talked about institute. Alhamdulillah, we're really happy you're here. You're joining us so you can tell us a lot about and more about the institute. And we love to hear from people who are doing work instead of cursing the darkness of what's happening right now. But, everybody can lament the state of young black men. But one of the things we want to do with Manna Talks is just kind of shine a light on good work, because people may not know what work is happening. So, if you don't mind, I want to start off with a quote from Dr. Leonard Sachs in his book, Boys Adrift. He says, something scary is happening to boys today. From kindergarten to college, they're less resilient and less ambitious than they were a mere 20 years ago. In fact, a third of men ages 22 to 34 are still living at home with their parents. About 100% increase in the past 20 years. This book was published in 2009. Brother Atiba, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's so much truth in that book. I read the book several years ago, and it really has shaped the way that I have approached working with young people in general, and especially boys. And it's really largely informed a lot of the work that we're doing even today. So, yeah.
Okay, so tell us about Save Institute. Tell us, I understand you're from Philadelphia, and now you're in Atlanta.
Yes.
So, tell us how do you go from Philadelphia to Atlanta, Georgia?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Philadelphia. After I completed high school, I got accepted into Morehouse College down here in Atlanta. Initially I wasn't intending to be in the South at all, but once I got into the school, everybody encouraged me to come down, so decided to give it a try. And so I'm glad I did. It was really a beautiful experience, not just because of the school, but all of the people that I met and all the experiences that I had. We had a really, really dynamic MSA at that time, which led me to being very active in the MSA, and then which led me to embarking upon a study abroad program in Syria in 2002, which was like between my sophomore and junior year in college, and just kind of being able to get away from the U.S., completely different environment. Not only was I able to study the dean that summer, but I was also able to work alongside a sheikh who ran an orphan program for boys. And we got a chance to spend a lot of time with these orphan boys that summer. And it has really had a deep impact on me. And it was really at that moment that it was just like something sparked inside of me. It was like I realized what I was supposed to be doing with my life. And it was really at that moment that I decided that when I go back, I was going to change my major to education, and I was going to dedicate my life to serving youth from my community. The way that I saw them serving these young boys there in Syria, and really, so that was 2002, and came back to the U.S. and that's all I've really been doing ever since.
MashaAllah. So when you come back, when do you start Save? Is that post Morehouse or
yes? So Save is a relatively new project. It was conceptualized in 2017. We incorporated, got 501c3, and actually started implementing programs in 2019. So right after, well, basically a year after I completed Morehouse, I graduated Morehouse in 05. In 2006, we founded the Risala Institute. With the Risala Institute, we started off kind of initially as a small summer program and eventually built up to a full-time pre-K through 8th grade Islamic school. So that ran all the way up until about 2014. And then after that, we established a farm. And we were doing a lot of agriculture education. And like I said, in about 2017, we came up with the concept, a brand new concept, which is now Save Institute. And, unlike what we were doing before with the Risala Institute, which was, alhamdulillah, we were able to do a lot of good work with that, but it primarily focused specifically on Muslims, for Muslims by Muslims, which is great. It's needed, and we need a lot more of those types of initiatives. But one thing that we really noticed was that a lot of African American Muslims stopped focusing on the general upliftment of our people, of Black people in general. So I felt the need to establish something that was a bit more universal and not just for the upliftment of Muslims only, but the upliftment of Black people in general, with a specific emphasis on the youth and an even more specific emphasis on the young men.
So when you started, I understand it was young men and young women when you started.
Yes.
When did you transition over to just boys? And what led to that move?
So it was about a year ago that we officially made the transition to focus solely on boys. And really, we were just going back to the original intention, because when it was first conceptualized, it was going to be a high school for boys. But we started getting all of these different requests. Well, the girls need the support too, and we don't have anything for our girls. So we decided, okay, we'll open it up. We'll serve the boys and the girls. But we realized that even though, yes, our girls desperately need development as well, absolutely. But in order for us to truly solve the problems that we need to solve, we need to focus. We need to specialize. And just like in any hospital, they have a triage system. You deal with the person that's in the most urgent need first, and that is our young men. So that's why.
No. It's good. It's good to move from, sometimes organizations are wandering generalities.
Right.
And to get to meaningful specific is very important.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah. Imam Mika'il.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa
rahmatullah. That's beautiful, brother. I'm so impressed and inspired. When you were in Syria, that's an interesting experience, I'm sure, especially as a young brother. When you were in Syria, you said that you worked with a sheikh and you saw how he was dealing with the orphan boys. Is that correct?
Yes.
So what program points, what program points you saw being implemented in Syria that you kind of borrowed and you're peppering in for SAVE?
So it wasn't really the program points that inspired what I do. It was just more so the dedication, the level of dedication that I saw for these young men. And the way that it was done was the sheikh had actually trained a series of young men, right? So he had just a large amount of students. These are all brothers in their like 20s and 30s who had been trained, developed by the sheikh, and now these young men were acting as the mentors for the orphan boys. So it was just beautiful to see. So each one of these young men had like a circle of these young boys that they were responsible for. So it was like, just a really beautiful system. But the most impressive thing was just the level of dedication. They were dedicated to uplifting and serving these boys and filling a void that, they were missing from their parents.
Beautiful. So I see you're talking about like a scaffolding, right? You know
Yes.
how, each one teach one. And I think, your methodology from what you're saying and the way you're attacking this issue is in the same regard, scaffolding, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, mentorship is very important, man. Alhamdulillah.
Absolutely. And so the beautiful thing is that, without even realizing it, I'm now seeing a similar thing happen, because when we started the Risala Institute in 2006, a lot of the boys that were like 7 and 8, 9 years old back then, now they are grown men. and several of them are now around and able to act as mentors for these younger boys that
Beautiful.
are now coming through the program.
Pay
So
it
it's
forward.
really a beautiful process. Alhamdulillah.
Beautiful. Jazakallah khair. Like Ashab Sufa in the hood, right?
Absolutely.
Companions. Yeah, I love that story about, of course, anybody who studies our faith in a layman's sense, sees that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was all about mentorship and investing in youth, adopting kids, right? And bringing those young men along. And, one of the things you saw were the companions of the sofa, right? The raised platform. There was like, at any given time, young brothers just hanging out in the masjid of the Prophet, and sleeping all around, you know what I mean? And they came only to be with the Prophet, and those were the ones that ended up teaching, beautiful.
Absolutely.
So we would be remiss if we didn't mention, so what do you see as the biggest challenge facing young Black boys in America?
SubhanAllah. So I think that the biggest thing that we're seeing is that it's not just one thing, right? They're literally being attacked from every angle imaginable. And it's almost a miracle that a young man can make it through all of this and turn out okay. So as we already know, like the education system, the music, these videos, it's so many different things, one after another, is really affecting the mentalities more than anything. It's not just opportunities is the mentalities. And I really saw this through a lot of the programs that I've run in the past, where the program may have been focused on giving opportunities to youth, right? So we set them up, we give them opportunities, we put them in good positions, and guess what happens? The opportunity ends up being ruined. Why? Because their mentality is all messed up, right? So they haven't been properly trained. They haven't been given the opportunity to learn how to even navigate within society. They haven't learned who their real enemies are, who their real friends are, and they're following behind idiots essentially. But they think that these people who don't care anything about them are the people that they're supposed to follow. And it's really, really a very sad situation. So it's just really a matter of creating the village that is really missing, the village that we once had as a people, recreating that village and providing that support and showing them different role models. So this past semester at SAVE, we've been taking these young brothers that are in our program and introducing them to several successful entrepreneurs and businessmen and religious men and all types of strong, powerful Black men who can show something different than what they're looking at and listening to every day on these devices.
So we have a question here. Sister asks, is SAVE a boarding school? And if it is or if it isn't, if it's not, is that the goal?
It is the intention, and it has been from the very beginning. So we plan to establish boarding options for SAVE, and with primary focus. So right now, SAVE is located right in the middle of South Atlanta, a very challenging community. But our plan is within 2 years, we are going to establish another campus in a rural area of Georgia that will be strictly boarding. And then we're working on a couple other phases as well. But yes, boarding is absolutely the intention.
And Brother Atiba, SAVE is, so what grade levels do you service again?
So SAVE is a high school. So we have 9th through 12th grade.
Okay. And the students, when they complete your program, what types of diplomas and certifications do they receive?
Yeah, so that's the beautiful thing. So we're are completely focused on setting these young men up for success. So when they finish the program, not only do they have a high school diploma, but they will have at least 5 different certifications in various vocational trades. They'll also have certifications in agriculture, and they will have a fully launched business of their own that they've started, right? So right now, all of our students have already started their own businesses. And so as they continue to go through the program, we're going to help them to build up their businesses so that by the time they graduate, they already have a business entity that is successfully making money. And so they have a choice. If they want to go to college, that's great. If they don't want to go to college, they don't have to, because they already have their own business. They already have vocational training, the certifications. They're ready to go out, make money, get married, take care of a family. They're set up to be straight.
So, Brother Atiba, you telling me that you all in South Atlanta are training young Black men how to grow their own food, and if they want to be able to establish a business to sell that food, and if they want to actually have the business acumen and know-how to scale a business in agriculture.
Absolutely.
What about building? What about, it sounds to me like you got a building component too. Like they should be able to like build a barn or something like that, or a greenhouse.
Oh, we definitely have building. So the students are studying carpentry. This year they'll be getting certifications in carpentry, construction management. In January they're going to be starting masonry training, as well as training to be electricians as well.
Allahu Akbar. MashaAllah.
So we have a question. Is there any ambition to open it up to younger boys?
So right now, our plan is to eventually incorporate middle school as well. I'm not sure that we would go below that, because there's certain components that you have to really be kind of at a certain stage to be ready for. But it is our intention to go down to middle school as well.
So we talk about the challenges young Black men are facing. What are some things we're missing out on? What are some things you're seeing in young men that we really are missing out on that they could really contribute to society or to the community?
Yes. So there's a lot of things, and we can go really on all night about the things that they're missing out on. So we know a big thing a lot of times is guidance and like the village, things like that. But I want to point out one thing that I think is extremely important, which is purpose. The youth being guided to understand and identify their purpose, and then given the tools to be able to carry it out. Right. And oftentimes they don't get a chance to know what their purpose is, because they're not even exposed to the different things that are even out there. And so a big thing, like, so for me, my story, I think is a great example. And I've seen many other stories like them. It was the exposure that I was allowed to receive that led to me having this epiphany of what I was supposed to do. Because before that point, even though I had grown up in a household, I grew up in a household where my father, he was a construction worker, and also he was completely dedicated to uplifting young Black men in our neighborhood in West Philly, right? He would be out there, trying to get the guys off the corner, yelling at them, trying to get them in vocational apprenticeship programs, telling them to get off the streets, all of these types of things. I had a mother who was a teacher also in West Philly, University City High School, who taught there she was a high school teacher for over 30 years, completely dedicated to young Black youth, right?
Lord.
I was given this various experiences working with youth myself, even before going to Syria. But it was through getting away and getting a certain type of exposure that it just sparked that epiphany inside of me that I was able to realize what I was supposed to be doing. And what I was doing specifically in that process was service, right? Which is what the S in SAVE stands for, service. Because what's been found through research and what I've seen with my own eyes is that when young people are exposed to service, to serving others, the first step is that they begin to understand that the life is about much more than them and their own selves, their own nafs, right? It's about, serving other people, right? And then if you then start to expose them to various different types of service and they get a taste of each one, they'll realize, okay, that's nice, but it's not really for me. But once they get exposed to that one type of service that really connects with their heart, then it's like, that's it, right? You can really literally transform a person's entire life just by helping them to see what it is that they're supposed to be doing.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah. So you got purpose by studying a study abroad program. So how do you give the young men who are in South Atlanta, who may not, they may not see it. Alhamdulillah, they're seeing it through SAVE. Beyond, seeing it, which is really important, is there any other strategies you use to help young men find their purpose?
Yes. So really the strategy is SAVE, right? So SAVE, is an acronym that stands for Service, Agriculture, Vocational Training, and Entrepreneurship. This is not just an acronym, but it's also a formula, right? So before we started SAVE, I work with youth in almost every way you can work with youth, right? As a school teacher, as a school administrator, as a counselor, running after school programs and summer programs and so many other things, right? So I got a chance to see how to develop youth in many different ways, a lot of things that didn't work, a lot of things that really worked. And the whole time I've been trying to develop a formula that will help to bring youth not only to success, but to finding their purpose, right? So if you look at this formula, so service, so we just talked about service, and it's ability to bring about humility, spirituality, the sense of serving other people, things like that. And then you look at agriculture. Not only does agriculture allow for you to grow your own food, but it also has a special way of connecting you to nature. And as I always say, the nature of nature is that it reconnects us to our own human nature, right? Because
which connects us to the Creator.
Urban societies is that it's pulling us away from our nature, right? These urban environments aren't natural, right? Even though I grew up in an urban environment, most of us grew up in urban environments, but it's really pulling us away from our natural state, right? So agriculture has the ability to bring us back down to that. And then also with vocational training, it's all about using your hands, right? Gaining skills. And then once you gain these skills, you then have something concrete that you can contribute to society. And then entrepreneurship, it allows you to be able to take all of the gifts and the talents and knowledge that you have and turn it into something of your own, right?
I see that.
It helps you to be able to understand that I can create something, right? I can build something, I can lead. So that does something very, very significant to the human psyche, right? Knowing that you can take something from nothing and build an entire institution from that. So right now, all of our students, they know anytime we go out anywhere or anytime a guest comes in, I tell them to introduce themselves. They say, good morning, my name is such and such. I'm the founder and CEO of such and such. And they're introducing themselves now as CEOs of companies, which allows for not only other people to view them differently, but for them to view themselves differently, right? So essentially,
it's an affirmation.
Exactly. So the combination of each of these things are designed really to help a young person to get to know their purpose.
Wow, man, it's so much barakah, man. You know, Allah has put so much barakah in this program, and I see it. I see that what you're saying, it took a lot of thought, a lot of practice, right? But I see you have a connection with God consciousness, what we call in our faith taqwa, right? And tarbiyah, right? In
Absolutely.
rearing and raising these young people in a holistic fashion. And I see the educator in you. You know, educators, you know, are special people. I'm not biased or anything. But educators are special people.
Alhamdulillah.
It's okay to be biased by educators, man.
Alhamdulillah.
It's okay.
That's right.
MashaAllah. Brother Atiba, do you have any plans on expanding, or if someone comes to you and says, I would like to open a Save Institute in Austin, Texas, or Jackson, Mississippi?
Or a seed program, whatever.
Yeah, it's something like, are you open to starting something there, or
Pour a
just
little in my hand.
mentoring people so that they can start something similar?
That hasn't been completely decided yet. So we'll see about that. But the primary focus right now is developing Save to be a national solution without having to be everywhere at the same time, right? And that's why the boarding piece is so necessary, because once it becomes a boarding school, we then become a national solution in that we are able to accept young men from all over the country. Send us your boys, we'll send them back as men is the motto. So that's our plan. But the goal is to not just do a boarding school here, right? So it's 4 levels that we're concentrating on. First, starting with the urban setting. Second level is the rural setting. The third level, so basically a campus in an urban campus, a rural campus. Then the third level is a campus in the Caribbean. The fourth level is a campus in West Africa. So those are the 4 campuses that we're working to establish right now.
MashaAllah. So you're actively working on a campus in West Africa right now?
The Gambia. So our goal is to send our first group of young men over to Gambia this coming June, inshallah.
That's a wise choice, in my opinion. English-speaking nation, mainly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So we have a question. A sister asked, "What's your capacity?"
Capacity in terms of how many students we're able to take on.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's
So essentially, right now, this is our first year as a full-time program. So we started the high school in August, and we intentionally started small. So right now we have 14 students, and next year we plan to at least double that number. But we have intentionally started small. We plan to keep it small for right now, and but gradually our plan though is not to stay small at all, but to really position ourselves to be able to serve hundreds, if not thousands, of students at a time.
And you know what, brother? I commend you for that thinking, because a lot of people don't understand the balance between scaling at ratio and scaling at capacity, right? So I see you're protective of your program also. That's important,
Absolutely.
So something you just said. Well, we have another question here. I'll ask you my question after this one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. What is your staff to student ratio?
So the average class size at one time is typically 6 to 7 students, and so typically it's about seven students to 1 teacher on average.
Alhamdulillah.
It's really interesting. You took the best of both worlds. Your parents, mashallah, may Allah reward them. You took your father's construction experience, and you took your mother's teaching experience. Alhamdulillah. So tell me a little bit about since you grew up in the city of Philly. Tell me a little bit about that experience, that that may have shaped some of your work at Save?
Yeah, I mean, it really shaped it in so many different ways. I think one of the biggest things that affected me the most was the dynamic of seeing. So I grew up in a neighborhood called Winfield in West Philly, which, as you know, so people who are familiar with the area know that Winfield is not the worst neighborhood in Philly at all. However, even still, even there, I saw so many of the young men that I grew up with, the same guys I used to play football and basketball with growing up, murdered, locked up, and lost in the streets, one after another. And in the same time period where I transitioned from out of Philly down to Atlanta to go to school. So I'm a freshman in college, and it felt like almost every month I was hearing about another one of these guys that I grew up with getting shot, getting killed, getting locked up. And then also so many of my cousins that I also grew up with, very similar things. Many of them were going to prison. And this really affected me deeply and frustrated me. I wanted to do something about it, but I didn't know what to do about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And this was what was going on. And at that time I was an engineering major, I was planning on becoming an engineer or something like that. And it wasn't until that trip to Syria, about a year and a half after that, that I really, it all kind of clicked and came together as to what I was supposed to be doing.
Let me ask you what kind of engineer you were majoring in.
Agriculture.
No, not at all.
That's what the AME stands for.
Electrical engineering. So I didn't have any kind of agricultural background or exposure at all until much later in life. Even like nature, I grew up in concrete jungle. So it wasn't really until I started working with youth and, running summer camps and things like that, where I'm saying these kids need to be exposed to some nature, right? So I decided we're going to take them on a camping trip. So even though I had never been camping myself, right? So I think I was probably like 24 at the time. I'd never been camping myself, but I'm like, we're going camping, right? Yep. Even though I didn't know what I was doing, nobody knew what they were doing, but I pretended like I did. Yep. And and then so after that we started doing, hiking and fishing and horseback riding, and then all of that eventually led up to getting into agriculture.
MashaAllah. Man, young people are great, man. And I remember the director of the Islamic school here in Detroit. He says that every child deserves a special education. I don't know if that's original, but man, young people are wonderful and special. And I think that when we have men like yourself, man, who actually have some deep thought about what do I want to contribute and how do I want to make your life better, that you'll be able to pass something on and be an asset and add value, man. I mean, that's beautiful.
Alhamdulillah.
So let me ask you, if there's a parent out there who's watching and saying, I really want to get my son, like,
oh yeah, we have a couple. They're chiming in like, how can I be down?
Yeah. So how do they apply? I know you're expanding next year.
Yes. So right now it's a pretty easy process. Right on our website, thesaveinstitute.org. You can go to the high school tab, and the enrollment application is right there. So so any parents that are interested, especially for next school year, which will start in August, they can apply right there on the website. And so there's the enrollment form, and there's also a scholarship form. So we don't turn anybody away, because of any, financial challenges or anything like that. So any people that are in need, they can apply for the scholarship, which is right there.
And right now you're just taking students from the Atlanta area, correct?
Right now, yes. Yes.
And because you have a small student body, how have you guys been managing COVID?
Yeah, I mean, COVID has really, been an interesting, just phenomenon to navigate. So initially we were scheduled to launch the high school in fall of 2020, right?
Mhm.
So so that spring we were just gearing up to like start putting it out there, open up for enrollment. Then COVID hit. So we decided that it was best to just hold off and delay it for a year just to kind of see how things are going to roll. And alhamdulillah, it worked out so that way, things are obviously COVID is not over, but things are, at least stable enough that we're able to operate, in person. And the good thing too is that a lot of what we do is outside, right? So like we have the boys as active as possible. So they're out on the farm, they're on construction sites, they're on, we're getting them out, we're getting them active. So it really helps out a lot.
Two quick questions. So if we talked about students, what if somebody's interested in teaching at SAVE?
So yeah, I mean, we are looking for specifically strong Black men to serve as not just teachers but role models for our young men, right? So right now we have four other brothers who have been teaching alongside of me this year, and these are all like brothers that I've known for years, and I've been able to witness their character and their commitment to the dean and commitment to serving their people. And so those are the types of people that we're looking for. So if anybody who is interested in doing this work, joining us, like, we're looking for as many brothers as possible to join us, but we're looking for some really, really strong role models.
Brother Atiba, I've been told that I'm a good role model, alhamdulillah. But I'll say on this program, if you need any guest lectures for social sciences, for government, civics, economics, look me up.
That'd be great.
And hopefully you do have my information. If not, Malik will get it to you.
Yeah, Motown, Coney Dogs.
Halal Coney Dogs.
Halal Coney Dogs. So now, funding. If someone wants to donate to SAVE, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, so also right there on the website, we have a donation tab, donation page. So, definitely we're always open to donations. It really helps us to keep going. So like I said, tuition is something that we do not allow to be a barrier. And eventually our intention is to make it a tuition-free private school, right?
Oh man.
So obviously, most private schools are very cost prohibitive, right? Only, the elite and the elect are able to.
And sadly, the Islamic-based private schools price out those that are underprivileged.
Yes. So, so our intention.
You remind Nader Ahmed, the director of Al-Ikhlas here, who always says that, money's not a problem. We'll be like, Imam, stop telling everybody that. Some people can't pay. Yeah.
So, I mean, like even right now, tuition only covers about 20% of our expenses.
Yep.
Yeah. So it only covers about 20% of our expenses. And like I said, our goal is to bring that down to zero. Because there's so many resources and so many wealthy individuals in our community. It's no reason why the people who need the help the most should have any barriers to this. But I want to bring up this important point, because our goal is not only to not be relying upon tuition, but it's also to not be relying upon donations or grants either, right? So from the very beginning, the model was built and really largely inspired by a school down in South America, in Paraguay, which is called the Escuela Agricola, right? So and they are known to be the school that pays for itself, right? So it's an agriculture-based high school down in Paraguay, and so the students, they're working a farm, they're working all of these different agro businesses, from the restaurant to the store, packaging goods and all types of other things. So they're working a farm and they're working the businesses, and essentially so much revenue is being generated from their farm that is paying for all the expenses of the school. So that was really inspirational. So we are duplicating that aspect of that model. But in addition to that, because we not only do agriculture, we also do the construction trades. So we're teaching our students real estate investing as well. And that's going to be, we plan for that to be a big part of what funds our programs, right? So through real estate investments, rental properties, different things like that, we plan to generate, allow for that to also generate revenue to support this.
Brother Atiba, I want you to look up The Dream of Detroit also.
I'm familiar.
You familiar with Dream of Detroit?
Yes, I am.
Mark Crane.
Yes.
Okay, I'm also a board member of Dream of Detroit, and what you're talking about is very complementary to the dream. Hopefully, you guys can collaborate.
Excellent. Yes, absolutely. I would love to.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so the school's going to go from 9th to 12th. When a student graduates from SAVE, what does the ideal student, and what would you like to see, beginning with the end in mind? Like what would you like to see out of a young man who graduates from SAVE?
So I'll share what a message that I was just sharing with the students just last week, right? So we already know that we want them to go out and be successful in many different ways in society. But what I tell them is that it is not sufficient for them to just be successful. We're not doing all of this just for them to be successful. They have to go out and be as successful as they can, and then come back and bring others with them, right? And so we were standing in a circle of these 14 young men. And I said, just imagine, right? All of you all go out and accomplish lots of great things, right? And then each of you go out and establish circles of young men that you then bring up. How many young men will be uplifted, right? And if we continue these cycles, I believe really like this is the answer to change, right? So we want, so what an ideal young man looks like coming out of this program is somebody who is not just about, becoming successful, making a lot of money, having a big house and a car. Yeah, that's nice if they have that, but somebody who is completely dedicated to uplifting their people at the same time.
Allahu Akbar.
I don't know if you've ever read Booker T. Washington's speeches to the students at Tuskegee.
Yes. Yes.
And that what you just said reminds me of how Booker T. Washington would talk to us.
On point.
You're doing this for the race. You're not doing this for yourself. Like, make your parents proud. Alhamdulillah. So,
and then the agricultural component, the do for self, you know what I mean? We're not charity cases. We're not impotent. You know what I mean? That whole narrative, beautiful.
Exactly.
So what advice, if would you give a parent raising a young man if they can't get to SAVE, if they're in, Jackson, Tennessee, or any other city, and they can't get to SAVE yet? What advice would you give someone, a family or a single mom, someone raising a young man?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I would say mentors, right? Every young man needs to have a strong mentor, and they need to have positive peers. And really, for youth, peers are probably even more important, right? Because and this is just from a psychology, my background is in psychology. Just from a psychological standpoint, for an adolescent, the most influential people in their lives are their peers.
And right? Teachers know that for a fact.
Yeah. So if you surround them with really positive peers, then that will have a big effect.
Positive peer pressure, huh?
Yeah, peers and a mentor that's already been there that can like show them the way. But in addition to that, kind of even more specifically, you know, the like I said, I just laid out what I believe is the formula, right? Which is what the 4 pillars of SAVE. Service, they need to be involved in service. Get them out there serving, feeding the homeless, you know, serving elders, working with younger children, whatever it is in their community. They're out there on the front lines of service, right? Getting involved with agriculture in some way, even if it's just growing some plants in their windowsill, but just growing something. And even, you know, and probably as important or maybe even more important than growing, I would say even having them involved with taking care of animals, right? It is not a coincidence that every prophet was a shepherd.
A shepherd.
It's not a coincidence, right? Because there's a reason. There's a lot of tarbiyah training in that. And getting them a skill, something, some type of vocational skill, even if it's not construction skill, it could be culinary arts, it could be IT, it could be whatever, some type of vocational skill, and then also teach them to start their own business and get them involved in that at a young age. And I believe really that's a formula. So those things, in addition to having really positive peers and a strong mentor, alhamdulillah, I believe they'll be okay.
Beautiful, brother. You know, I'm so happy to hear you say that, and I'm so glad that you came and joined the program today. Jazakallah khair.
Alhamdulillah, it's been a pleasure.
Alhamdulillah. No, we've heard a lot about the program. It's legendary, mashallah. And it gives people hope that, you know, we can solve this problem with our young men instead of, you know, everybody's, these boys. You know, one of the things we talked about last week was something, my own observation, I would like to see what you think about it, is, you know, during the time of Jahiliyyah, they would bury the young girls alive. And what I've noticed with our young men, we don't physically bury them, but we don't have a purpose for them. And so essentially we're emotionally and spiritually burying them. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very sad reality. And again, though, I think it goes back to young men understanding who they are, understanding their purpose and their role, right? And if a young man understands their role and what they're supposed to be doing, these types of things would never even exist.
And accountability. You know, when you mention burying them, I also think about the sentiment that they're of no consequence, right? Because whereas we might not have an agenda for them, you know, there's some capitalists and a prison industrial complex, right, and a war machine that definitely has some plans for them, right? So I think when we think of the burying of them, it goes back to something Brother Atiba said, not giving them that purpose, you know, and especially in the generation that's coming of age now, the Instagram, right? You know, the Instagram culture, and they've written many articles on this about how people will begin to see themselves in the metaverse, right? Adverse to what is the actual reality, you know, so to give them a sense of purpose and connectivity and not be selfish.
Absolutely.
Brother Atiba, I'm going to share something with you. I was a former engineering major as well. A mechanical engineer. I'm from Detroit.
I was going to say agriculture?
Nah, you're from Detroit. You know?
Agriculture and mechanical.
No,
that's what the A&M stands for.
No. So I majored in mechanical engineering. My father worked at Chrysler, and that was what he told me. You know, going through high school, you engineer, boy. I want you to be an engineer. I want you to be an engineer. And I rode the wave. I just rode it, you know, until I was in an engineering materials class. I had a 1.5 out of 100. And I thought, this is not the skill set. This is not it.
Your heart wasn't in it, huh?
No. You know, I wasn't, but show you how Allah worked. In that same semester, So I went home and read Proverbs. My aunt used to tell me to read Proverbs when life is kind of tough. This is pre-Islam. And I read a proverb that said, labor not to be rich and depart from thy own wisdom. Whenever I would talk to someone about being an engineer, the only thing people would talk to me about,
money.
Exactly.
Money.
Exactly. Me too.
Right? Yeah. That's the only thing. You're going to make some money.
Well, you know what? I always tell people it's like the Muslims are confusing young folks because on one hand, Muslims are praising teachers, right? And Muslims are telling the kids respect your teacher. But then when, right, the average Muslim wants their kid to be what, a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, and you tell them you tell your parents you're going to be a teacher, what do they say? You ain't going to make no what?
Yeah, you're going to make no money.
You ain't going to make no money. But respect the teacher, though.
Yeah, make sure.
Exactly. And really, I experienced that, right? Just looking at the reaction when I changed my major from engineering to education, they're like, what? Like, why would you do that?
Oh, your
really kind of broke my heart a little bit. I'm like, because I care. I want to change. I want to, I want to serve. They're like,
your own peers will get on you. And then see, how, vicious and capitalistic and even hypocritical, the system is that it forces people to, like you said, about purpose with men, it forces people to judge men and accredit their value based upon how much they have or how much they can make. Absolutely. So then we, at the same time, we criticize brothers for not wanting to go into education. We don't have enough black men in education, right? Well, stop making us feel we have to do the money phone every time we get a couple of grand, man. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And the sisters don't want you if you ain't got no money phone. La ilaha illallah.
So I can relate. The same experience when I told people I switched over to education. It was I remember some of the older people in Detroit used to say, "We've seen plenty of people leave that classroom and come back to the plant." Yeah, man, Mika'il, you know what I'm talking about. We've seen plenty of people leave that classroom,
especially what we do in Islamic education.
Yes,
there's not a whole lot of African American brothers holding up the mantle for Islamic education.
No.
Right.
No. And we need to have a program on that. Black men in Islamic education, but let's talk about that later.
Yeah. So Brother Atiba, we're really grateful, mashallah, that you came on. Really, really happy you took some time with us. Tell us about SAVE. Like I said, we've heard a lot about it. Mashallah, I don't know who your cameraman is. Slide him a bonus. Alhamdulillah, like the camera. Or who does your website? MashaAllah, we might need. Your website and the pictures are excellent. Alhamdulillah, and that's something we like to see. Like black.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. What you're doing, brother?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Creating a standard. Instead of cursing the darkness, shining light, and giving young people a guide, young men especially a guide. To be able to do some really big things in the world, alhamdulillah. And in closing, just wondered if you have any words for us, any parting words.
So I think we are literally experiencing a war that's taking place. Not just against our people in general, right? We know about that, but even more specifically against black boys. And this has been going on for quite a while now. And personally, I believe it's time to fight back. I believe it's time for us to come together, put our differences aside, right? Get to work to uplift these young men.
And I can tell brother ain't about too much talking either. I like that. Say what needs to be said, and let's work. I love that.
Yeah, no, alhamdulillah. That's Philadelphia. Du Bois wrote a book. I'm reading the Philadelphia Negro. I thought, man, Du Bois, like, what is that? Are you familiar with that book, Brother Atiba?
Absolutely.
So
I'm not familiar with that one.
No, alhamdulillah, you get a chance.
I love Philly.
Yeah. You get a chance, mashallah. It's good. In closing, we have a comment from Sahar Salah. May Allah reward you brothers. We need African American brothers to become teachers. I've been an educator for 25 years, and I'm working with my first African American male principal. I cried tears of joy when he was given the position. Uplifting Black boys and children of color is essential.
I mean,
Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes.
So,
No.
again, Brother Atiba, we're really, really grateful. Inshallah, and hopefully this will be the first of many.
Yep.
Inshallah.
And I like to say, hey, all people are special, and so is you. You know what I mean? It's okay to love yourself. It's okay to love your people, and alhamdulillah. Thank you very much, brother.
So, Imam Mika'il, you want to send us out in dua?
Sure. I'm going to just, make an English heartfelt dua, then I'll end with our tradition. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Ya Allah, Almighty, our Creator, most merciful, extremely merciful, our Provider, the subtle, the unseen, the first and the last. We beg of you to forgive us, shower your mercy upon us, allow the ways to be easy for us, bless our efforts, bless this academy, bless this organization, bless our families, protect us from those evils we see and those we do not see. Ameen. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله على كل حال. والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Ameen.
So we have a video. I'm sorry. We have a video about manna as we go into the end of the year. Inshallah, if everybody could just take a moment and watch the video. Inshallah.
The Muslim Alliance in North America, MANA, is bringing African American Muslims together to strengthen our community. We are helping to feed, educate, inspire, and organize our community.
Brothers and sisters, we know it's been a difficult year, another year of COVID, another year of economic unsettlement and instability. MANA during this time has helped to inspire and uplift our community, to keep our spirits up with very inspirational programs. You can check them out on our website, www.manajustice.org. Go there and go there also to help support our year-end campaign so we can continue to inspire you. Brothers and sisters, please donate to help us to continue our work of keeping our spirits up during these very tense, difficult, and challenging times. This is Imam Zaid Shakir on behalf of the Muslim Alliance in North America. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So, inshallah, everybody have a good night. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thank you, brother.